It's another rainy, rather storm-filled morning. We've got sort of high winds coming in. You can hear the seagulls making a racket. Down the garden path. Past a rather nice wooden sculpture by my friend Si Ewins. I like the way it just stands there, the bamboo grass framing it. Up the steps to the studio. So, I was thinking about what I wanted to do to sort of start off today, and it's always nice to just do something, you know, sort of not work related, just maybe a sort of warm up of some sort. I'm going to put on the lights. It's that sort of day. That's better. Shed some light on there. So I thought I would just start today with a pencil drawing of well, I think what this will be is I'm thinking I've been drawing lots and lots of wizards recently because I'm working on a card game called Wizard Work, and I thought in the weekly What's on My Drawing Board I would take you through the work so far on Wizard Work and show you the cards and the preparatory drawings I've done and little maquettes. There's lots of nice stuff to see, so I'll be talking about that this week in that slot. But for the daily sketchbook segment, I thought I'd just start the day with maybe a sort of contemplative wizard. I do enjoy eyebrows as my eyebrows become a little more characterful and bushy. I mean, I knew I was getting to that stage when my barber said to me, eyebrows, sir? And what he meant was, did I want my eyebrows clipped? And I thought, oh dear, I've got to that age where hair grows in all the places one doesn't want and doesn't grow in the places where you do want it, like the top of your head. But that's a whole other issue. And maybe this is why I've become very wedded to drawing beards. So I think this is going to be essentially a beard-based drawing. I don't know whether it is obligatory in the sort of Dumbledore style guide that wizards should have extravagant beards that grow down to their navels, but I suspect it might be. And of course there's lots of little flourishes and things one can add in to a characterful beard. I mean, you can sort of maybe have little knots tied into it, just to give a bit of interest. And I'm drawing with a pencil, a soft pencil, 6B, which gives a nice line, but still retains that essential sort of pencil quality, which I really enjoy. And when I say pencil quality, I think ink is so definite a lot of the time, and pencil always has a slight sense of the underdrawing of the drafting. And of course, you can have terribly finished pencil drawings, but so much of what I do is linear, I think, in my approach. I think I see the world in terms of line and outline much more than I do in sort of light and shade. And I think there are different artists who sort of who have these different approaches. The artists who are interested in tonal arrangements and the way that shadows are cast, and then other artists who are interested in almost the calligraphic quality of things. I'm thinking of someone like Aubrey Beardsley, the extraordinary illustrator of Oscar Wilde's Yellow Book, who was a master of the decorative line, almost the calligraphic line, and the weight of black and white in a drawing. It's in sort of direct contrast maybe to, I suppose, the work of someone like Edward Ardizzoni, who had a lovely sort of feel for the light and shade and figures standing in half illuminated interiors, beautifully sort of shaded. So I think as illustrators, in a way, we can find our way to what interests us. And I think the way to start is to just draw a lot, draw every day, and often, and I would, this is my sort of philosophy, I suppose, I would say draw automatically if you can, just begin a drawing, and then let it grow, make decisions. I'm not saying necessarily you've got to not direct what you draw or not sit down with a subject in mind. But what you can do, I think, is allow, once you've sort of decided, right, you're going to draw a wizard, you can maybe allow that drawing to sort of take on its own character. For instance, this is a character with an impressive fur collar. He could equally have had a sort of lace ruff for a collar, but you make these little decisions as you allow the drawing to form. And you can go on little thoughts about sort of, what is the contrast between the fur collar of his robe and the sort of fluffy nature of his beard, different textures, and how are you going to sort of convey that? And those are all quite thoughtful decisions you can make as an illustrator that you didn't necessarily set out to make when you began the drawing. And I think it's those little byways that it's interesting to explore when you sort of draw automatically and you allow the illustration to sort of gather its own momentum. I think he will be holding a wand, slightly tentatively maybe. I've got to say, I do enjoy expressive fingers and hands. I think it's one of those things, you see it in the work of the Vienna Secessionists and the Expressionists of the 20s and 30s, the elongated figures with their very expressive hands. You also see it, I think, in some of the great Golden Age illustrators, Arthur Rackham and Edward Heath Robinson. They enjoyed expressive hands for their characters. Emphasising the knuckles and the digits and where they... But a lot of the stuff I think will come through regular drawing. You make mistakes and things don't quite work out as they should, and I think that's fine as well. And I think by sort of feeling at ease with the process, you can make discoveries along the way. And if you don't like it, that's fine as well. I mean, that's what sketchbooks are for. And when I'm going to sit down and choose some sketchbooks and just go through them and page turn the sketchbook, so you can have a look at the different drawings I've done, I suppose, throughout my career. There will be pages where, quite frankly, the drawings are dreadful. But they're sketchbooks. That's what sketchbooks are for. They're our workshops. They are there to contain our experiments, our inadvertent thoughts, shopping lists, you name it. I mean, they should not be curated spaces in any sense of that word. They should be just places where you gather the materials, your imaginative materials, that you can then look to when you create finished pieces or you're commissioned to work on a project. I think what I might do is just give it a little bit of, it's always quite nice to add the formality maybe of a frame. It then can give you a sort of sense of a sort of compositional space. I sometimes start with a frame, but it's also quite nice to end with a frame sometimes. So your drawing is floating, almost as a vignette, and then just before it finishes, you can create a space for the drawing to sit in. There he is. I think there might be just a suggestion of a study in the background. The other thing I think, and I will talk about this as the days go by, but the idea of world building and storytelling through the visual approach, where you draw things and then analyse and decide what stories they contain. And the narrative begins almost with visual notes rather than written notes. It's an interesting way to construct stories and ideas, to start with something visual and then sort of almost explain it, start to tell yourself a story about the character you've drawn, or, why they're wearing a certain garment, why they're sitting on a chair that's floating above the floor rather than a more conventional stool. All sorts of ways in which you can sort of begin to imagine worlds that are different from ours through the way that you sketch and construct. The pictures as you go. And that's a really enjoyable part. And it's also, I think, a really, really good way to avoid sort of creative blocks, that feeling of, oh, what am I going to do today? We all have that, where we wake up and just think, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing today. I mean, I could do this, I could do that. And sometimes you can spend all day wondering what to do with your day. And a good way to sort of just circumvent that is to pick up a pencil, draw a wizard, and tell yourself a story about that wizard. And you might never revisit it again. It might just sit in your sketchbook without being seen, or it might come back one day. You might open that sketchbook, take a look inside, and think, There was that wizard I drew in pencil the other day. I wonder whether I can tell a story about him. And something begins, a project, an idea takes seed. So you don't have to sit around waiting for ideas. Go and find them with a 6B pencil and a piece of paper.